Wow, a Donkey Kong Bananza Direct was just confirmed. What secrets will they reveal? Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are talking about how Nintendo just confirmed a Donkey Kong Bananza Nintendo Direct. As they said this morning, tune in at 6 AM Pacific Time on June 18th for a live-streamed Donkey Kong Bananza Direct presentation featuring roughly 15 minutes of information about the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 game. So, we have this Donkey Kong Bananza Direct. It's been confirmed. We've been theorizing we'd be getting a Bananza Direct, but also we've been theorizing about there being a normal General Direct. Does this mean we're not getting a normal General Direct? I don't think so, so I'll be talking a little bit about that today, but also, and perhaps more importantly, given that this is happening just a short couple days, we're going to be going into our full predictions on everything we may see in this Bananza Direct. I believe many secrets are about to be revealed. So that's what we're getting into today. But before going forward, let me point out I'm aiming for a goal of 60,000 subscribers. So if you find yourself enjoying my content, your subscription would be appreciated. So literally yesterday, I put out my Summer 2025 Nintendo Direct predictions, and funnily enough, literally the next morning Nintendo confirms a big Donkey Kong Bananza Direct. So what does this mean for a General Direct? I already see some people saying that there's no way there's going to be a normal General Direct now that we're getting a Bananza Direct, and that last week we got the Splatoon Raiders announcement. Well, the thing is, at least in terms of my own personal expectations, I've been expecting a Bananza Direct for some time already, so this to me isn't too surprising. What's surprising to me is that it's this week. I thought we might have to wait till perhaps early July, but really all this tells me in terms of a General Direct is that we'll have to wait a little bit later. The General Direct will not be this week. I've actually been talking about for a while already that it sort of looks like Nintendo is going into this year with more Direct presentations in mind, meaning more game-specific Directs to come in between the big General Directs. We got the Mario Kart World Direct, we're now getting a Bananza Direct. Could there perhaps be other Directs coming a little bit later, or maybe like a Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Direct? I think that is absolutely on the table. But regardless of these different game-specific Directs, there's still a great deal of information that needs to be relayed for a whole bunch of other projects outside of Donkey Kong Bananza here. We still don't have a release date for Metroid Prime 4, or Splatoon Raiders, or Kirby Air Riders, or Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. When will those games be coming out this year? And we do need updates on those relatively soon. But then how about third-party games? We just went through Summer Games Fest and got none. So where are all these different third-party games that we keep hearing murmurings about or leaks about and nothing's been confirmed yet? Of course there are going to be more games coming to Switch 2, and nothing's been said yet. So yes, I still expect there to be a major Direct presentation at some point this summer telling us everything we need to know about different games coming out this year. A game-specific Direct on just Bananza doesn't really dispel that idea to me in any way, shape, or form. All it means is that we may have to wait a little bit longer, which is already under consideration. I literally titled my video yesterday Summer 2025 as opposed to June because I was accounting for, I don't want to say this exact possibility because I was not predicting a Bananza Direct this week, but just that Nintendo may do things a little bit differently and position their next big Direct a bit later into the summer. Regardless though, right now, we are getting the Bananza Direct in less than 2 days. And so we're going to get a blowout of information on this game. So what is that going to be? What are we going to learn about Donkey Kong Bananza? Well, I think some people might be quickly reminded of the Mario Kart World Direct, and we had a lot of hype and excitement going into that game, and we came out of the Direct thinking, well, that was maybe one of the not so good Directs we've gotten from Nintendo, because at least at face value, we didn't learn that much about Mario Kart World. I actually think this Bananza Direct is going to play out quite differently. One, because we had a lot more information about Mario Kart World going into the Mario Kart World Direct. There were more treehouse segments, there was more trailer footage, and also based off the structure of the game, when you see people playing in the open world at these different treehouse events, guess what? You're going to see different parts of the game there. So if you watch enough treehouse events, enough Switch to Experience events, you're going to see a lot more about Mario Kart World. In the case of Bananza, there were just 2 small levels we got to explore. Maybe small is not the right word to use here, but just 2 levels, and I assume there's going to be a great deal of levels in Bananza. So I think we got a much smaller slice of Bananza from what Nintendo has shared so far in comparison to Mario Kart World, where basically they just gave us small amounts of time to explore the entire world. So I do think it's a different thing we're looking at here. In other words, with the Bananza Direct, quite easily, they're going to be able to share with us a lot more about this game that we did not know about in any way. So while this Direct is also not going to be a large one, it's going to be a 15-minute presentation, this 15-minute presentation will be about one game, and I imagine a lot of it will be new stuff. So then, what are my predictions for this Bananza Direct? Well, one of my predictions is that we are going to see Diddy Kong in the game, and I think this is the presentation where that may come to light. We've already seen Diddy Kong heavily involved with the new promotional material for Super Nintendo World. There are new designs for Diddy Kong alongside the new designs for Donkey Kong. Clearly, Nintendo's not forgetting about Diddy Kong here. So I definitely think there's a plan involved with Diddy Kong, as we've heard from the Mario Kart World producer as well in interviews. So I think it's just a matter of time. And I also think there will be cross-promotion with Mario Kart World. Very curiously, both Donkey Kong and Pauline only have 2 costumes. Everyone else that has costumes has a whole bunch more. It's very, very odd. Now, I don't know if I want to go so far as to predict that there will be Mario Kart World announcements in this Donkey Kong Bananza Direct. I think if anything, that could be a sign of a general Direct coming a little bit later. But regardless, I do think we need to get more new information on the Kongs. So I think Diddy Kong will learn more about, and I also think we're going to learn more about, obviously, Donkey Kong, but perhaps also Pauline, or at least what's going on with that situation there. Because there was a leak from Nintendo of Korea where there was what appeared to be like a young version of Pauline riding Donkey Kong's shoulder, like another companion character very similar to Oddrock. I think there's a very good chance we're going to see what this is about. Because if they have promotional material hanging around that they accidentally slipped out of Pauline, we may learn about that in this presentation. It's possible this is meant to be like a big reveal when the game comes out, when we actually are playing the game, we see it in the game. But if they have art like this that's being shared, that's being confused as the initial promotional material, it may be intended as later on promo material. So we could learn the identity of Oddrock in this Bananza Direct, and that is me suggesting that Oddrock is the same person as this young girl who looks like a young version of Pauline. I think we're definitely going to get some insight into that situation. But talking about these different characters, that might send you more down a story path here, and while I do think we're going to learn a little bit more about the story of this game, what I really think this is going to pertain to is the gameplay. I think odds are there will be some form of multiplayer in Donkey Kong Bananza. Considering the history of things here, the Donkey Kong Country games have co-op, right? There's a widespread belief that this game seems to pertain to at least some follow-up to the development of Mario Odyssey, and that game had cooperative play, so perhaps this game will also have some form of cooperative play. And even if you don't want to buy into that thinking, there is also the thinking that Bananza, in a lot of ways, is like a follow-up to Donkey Kong 64, which also had a form of multiplayer. It wasn't cooperative play, it was a local multiplayer, but still, there was a little bit of that, and multiplayer would be a big mode. That would be something they would showcase in a direct like this, so if there's going to be multiplayer, this is the presentation where we'll learn about that. And so on that note of multiplayer here, if it's more so in the cooperative direction, that's reason to learn about some of the companion characters that will be riding on Donkey Kong's shoulder outside of just Oddrock, like maybe young Pauline, who could be the same person, might not be the same person, or perhaps Diddy Kong, for example. When I saw this new render of Diddy Kong riding Donkey Kong's shoulders, it definitely got me wondering, oh, could they be thinking about something like this for Bananza? Now, these renders aren't in the Bananza art style, so maybe not so much, but it's certainly another possibility there. Like, what if Donkey Kong Bananza has a variety of companion characters? Diddy Kong, Oddrock, young Pauline, or whoever that young girl is, maybe Dixie Kong, and possibly more. And these different companion characters might have their own different abilities, but regardless, when we have these different companion characters, they can function as some form of cooperative play. Another game that comes to mind, Bowser's Fury. Bowser Jr., a companion character to Mario, was also tied to the cooperative play. So I think there's definitely a strong chance we're going to be learning about some companion characters here and how they may or may not tie into cooperative play. If there's not cooperative play, then maybe there's local multiplayer, which is also an exciting possibility. But let's go beyond multiplayer here, because I don't think that's going to be the most important thing we'll learn about Donkey Kong Bonanza. Mario Kart World is the big multiplayer game. That's what they opened the Switch 2 with, right? That was the launch title. The follow-up game, that second big title for the launch window of Switch 2, is Bonanza. This is a big adventure game, right? This is that game that a lot of people feel is right now missing from the Nintendo Switch 2 library, a big brand new Nintendo adventure. This is it right here, Bonanza. And so what will we learn about this adventure that may have cooperative play, but most importantly it's going to be more of a single player focus? Well, obviously I think we're going to see new areas, but also I think we're going to get a better understanding of the overall gameplay loop for this game. We already have somewhat of an understanding that we are getting deeper and deeper into the world, and we're exploring these different areas, collecting the golden fossilized bananas, trying to figure out what's going on and trying to get to Void Co. But a common sentiment from what we've seen so far of Bonanza is that it appears to be just about a whole bunch of random destruction. I think what we're going to see as we've seen more about this game is that it's actually fairly structured. Like, there's going to be certainly a great degree of freedom within these areas, but there will also be a lot of limitations placed in certain areas to provide that structure, and we are going to find a great deal of variety to the gameplay that I think a lot of people are looking forward to here. We've seen some examples of towns in Bonanza. I think we'll see a little bit more of that. We'll see more interaction with different characters. We'll get to see that there's a little bit more of a story going on here, actually. We've seen a lot of different pieces of evidence to show that there's certainly a great attention to detail in terms of throwing in different references from prior Donkey Kong history here. And so to me, that strengthens my belief that this game definitely has a lot of love and care being put into it, not just from a gameplay perspective, but from an overall lore story perspective here. So as we see more areas of this game in this Bonanza Direct, I think that's going to become more apparent as well. And something else I'll say, because we've been theorizing like crazy about a King K. Rool making a comeback here, I do think King K. Rool is making a comeback. I think the evidence is overwhelming. I'm not going to go over all of that here for this particular video. There's already several videos on the subject on the channel. But the point is, I do think it's happening, and I do think we're going to see more hints or bits of evidence in this Direct. So I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for that kind of stuff. I think this is going to be great for us to further analyze more deeply into what's going on with Bonanza. But I do not actually expect us to get a confirmation of King K. Rool in this game. Not in this Direct. I think that's going to be a surprise for when we actually play the game. Now, maybe they do decide to show it off, and that would be wonderful, but I'm expecting a reveal like that to be saved for the actual adventure when we get to play it, because I could see him kind of being like a big surprise reveal later on to the game for some kind of boss fight. As I said earlier, I think the big character reveal this time around, if there's only going to be one, it's going to be Diddy Kong, because I think he would tie into the gameplay. And on that note, let me speak a little bit more on that, some of the different gameplay things we may see. I've been theorizing that Rambi, and perhaps others, will make a comeback here. And Rambi's been used as an alternative form of gameplay in prior Donkey Kong games. I expect that to return in Bonanza, and we may see that. We may see these different modes of gameplay, or rather, different sequences of gameplay within the overall level structure. And so we're going to see perhaps maybe some moments where Donkey Kong is teaming up with Rambi, and perhaps others, like On Guard, for example. So the interesting thing about On Guard is that we've seen that with the water in Bonanza, Donkey Kong can swim at the surface, but not dive underwater. He may need On Guard to dive underwater here, so I wouldn't be surprised if they show some different characters that DK can work with for actually like different styles of gameplay. And these wouldn't be your typical companion characters, but more like ride characters. I believe we've actually already seen Espresso the Ostrich, another ride character from the Country games, so this is more reason to think so. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but we have seen a Rambi icon from the Cranky Kong dialogue in the Lagoon area, so I think there's a decent amount of evidence to this idea that ride characters are going to make a return in Bonanza, which is more variety to the gameplay. Now I could go on and on about more. I'm sure there will be other little things. They may talk about how Donkey Kong can buy costumes in the shops and stuff like that. But this is just a 15-minute direct presentation. They're not going to reveal everything about this game in this presentation, but I do think we're going to have a much better understanding of what's going on in Bananza, and we'll have a lot more material to overanalyze and figure out even more things and put together even more exciting theories as we approach the release of this game in just about a month. But what do you all think? Are you hyped for this Bananza Direct? Do you think this means we have to wait a little bit more for a General Direct or a lot more for a General Direct? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.